Jim Mattis to China, advancing areas of agreement, addressing areas of concern and disagreement when it comes to defense and security. Let's talk more about that with Jonah Blank. He's a senior political scientist with the RAND Corporation, a global policy think tank. Jonah, welcome to our program.
Thank you, Asieh.
So, of course, there are more sensitive topics like South China Sea, like Taiwan. Is it realistic to think the two sides will reach some kind of agreement or consensus when they're so far apart on these issues? Or are the discussions simply about listening to one another and hearing what the other side has to say?
I don't think either side expects to win the other one over. There are some very basic disagreements on these issues, as you've rightly pointed out. But these are important talks to have because we need predictability on both sides. From China's point of view, I think there will be a real appetite on the part of President Xi to understand what the U.S. military's true intent is in areas such as the Korean Peninsula, South China Sea, Taiwan, and many other parts of the Asia-Pacific region.
Your thoughts on U.S. disinviting China from RIMPAC military exercises that get underway Thursday, when military-to-military cooperation, as you mentioned, are so critical between these two great powers? I mean, how unprecedented is it to invite a country, the second biggest economy in the world, in the middle of a trade dispute, and then disinvite them?
Well, it's not without precedent. However, I think that what is going on here is an attempt to send a signal. There is a lot of concern on the U.S. side about Chinese actions, particularly in the South China Sea, and a lot of frustration because the U.S. does not have a lot of tools that have proved effective in the past. The U.S. has conducted what are called FONOPs, that is, freedom of navigation operations, sending U.S. military warships within proximity of terrain that is claimed by the People's Republic. However, that has not really sent as strong a message as the U.S. would like to send.
And on an area that the two sides perhaps seem to be on the same page, the progress, the historic summits we've seen with Kim Jong-un, talking about DPRK, of course, do you think Mattis will hear details on DPRK's plan for denuclearization?
I doubt it, because at least speaking for myself, I don't think that Kim Jong-un has any intention of genuinely giving up his capacity for nuclear weapons capability. I think that this has never been something he intends and never will intend. More importantly, however, I think that Secretary Mattis and President Xi will be able to discuss the very unorthodox outcome of the Trump-Kim Jong-un summit, which really left observers in the United States and probably in China scratching their heads and wondering what it all means.
So switching gears here, Jonah, if this summit happens, looks like details are being confirmed right now, talk to me about the optics of such a meeting between Trump and Putin, considering the special counsel's Russia investigation still hasn't wrapped up, an investigation that the President of the United States has repeatedly called a witch hunt.
Well, Asieh, there certainly have been plenty of meetings between U.S. presidents and leaders of Russia, but there has never been a meeting at this level when a U.S. president has been under investigation for potential collusion with the very same Russian leader.
We should say his campaign is under investigation for collusion.
That's accurate,
okay.
Although at least according to some reports, it's possible that we don't know where the Mueller investigation will go. It's also important to note that while Trump and Putin have met before, they've met on the sidelines of other meetings rather than as a specific organized summit. So this is new territory. More important than the optics, however, will be the substance. What might be agreed to? As we saw in the Trump-Kim Jong-un summit, there was a complete lack of preparation, an admitted lack of preparation by the U.S. president for the substance. Is that going to be the case here, or would the U.S. president go in more prepared than he did for the summit with the leader of North Korea?
And I think a bigger question here is, does this administration, does this White House have a unified approach when it comes to dealing with Russia? From one side, you have U.S. sanctions, you have the expulsion of the diplomats. From another, you have Trump, who is seemingly unwilling to want to criticize President Putin for election interference, calling for Russia to be admitted back to the G7, blaming his predecessor, Obama, for the annexation of Crimea. I mean, there doesn't seem to be a unified strategy when it comes to dealing with Russia.
Absolutely right, Asieh. Congress has been quite clear. Congress passed a resolution nearly unanimously mandating that sanctions be maintained. And the president has been very antagonistic to that view. He does not believe that there has been any collusion. He believes it is all a false charge. And he's been quite vocal about this. So he may well be going into some areas that Congress and other parts of the establishment really do not agree with him on.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Jonah Blank, thank you, sir.